Welcome to the Accidental Experts podcast. I'm your host, Bryce Hamilton. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and a child and family therapist. I have been in practice for over 15 years, and I'm also a mom of 4. So I know the challenges both professionally and personally. I'm so glad that you're here today to grow your parenting toolbox. Please come as you are and be ready to learn. My goal is to make you the accidental expert so that you can raise healthy humans. Hi, welcome back. I'm so glad you're with us today. So, I am going to introduce Leslie Forde. She is the CEO and founder of Mom's Hierarchy of Needs and a published author of Repair with Self-Care, your guide to Mom's Hierarchy of Needs. Her business provides evidence-based tools to help moms reclaim their time and well-being from the never done list, also helping employers retain working parents and caregivers. Since March 2020, over 3,700 parents have participated in her research study, the longest running of its kind on the pandemic and its ongoing work, care, and wellness. With over 20 years in senior leadership and with a decade focus on media, technology, and childcare, elder care, mental health, and education, Leslie is a sought-after speaker and consultant. She advises organizations like HubSpot, Scholastic, and the Barr Foundation on how to retain and support parents, caregivers, and people of color. Her insights about well-being, equity, and future work have appeared in the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, CNN, National Geographic, Fast Company, U.S. News and World Report, and so many more. With that, I will welcome Leslie Forde.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
Well, and such an important topic as moms, right? To put ourselves in a place of like priority.
Yes.
Yes.
And it's not a thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've seen it. We've been socialized into it.
Yes.
Moms are notorious for putting themselves last. And it's in our society, it's kind of held up as the gold standard for what it means to be a good mother.
Yes.
So it's really difficult to break past that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you're exhausted, you have no energy, you don't do anything for yourself, then you're winning. That's kind of the message we receive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Which I absolutely despise. It really is something that is like so hard, but it's like I find myself doing it too, where it's like, oh, the kids need this, so I'll sacrifice that hair appointment that I had scheduled for myself because they need to go to soccer practice and whatever. And it's not like, yeah, it's just like so hard because it's like, what are you choosing? What are you saying? And what makes you a good mom? Because I think we all want to succeed.
100%. And I even fall into that trap, right? Because exactly as you described, it's what we see, it's what's celebrated, we're rewarded for it. Every like corner of the universe is giving us the high fives when we're in that self-sacrificial, ignore the hair appointment, or in more cases, ignore the doctor's appointment, the mammogram, the colonoscopy, like put that off, the therapy appointment. Moms are ignoring their preventative health, but they're also ignoring critical things like sleep and movement and time with other adults and the types of things that really are stress relieving and life sustaining.
Yes. Yes. I often say you cannot pour from an empty cup. And it is really hard. Like you can't get anything out of there. I promise. I've tried. Right. So I'm excited for our conversation today because I know I'm going to take away some things that I can adapt in my life. So I'm excited that you're here. Okay. Let's start with talking about, can you break down this idea that you have or that you've come up with a mom's hierarchy of needs and why it's such an important framework for us to integrate into our lives?
Absolutely. I'll give you just like the 30 seconds on how I came up with a framework.
Yeah,
totally.
totally.
I had recovered from burning out after my second return to work from leave. And it was in that like really 2+ year recovery from burnout that I was having a conversation with another founder. This is before, actually, well, I guess not another founder. It was an organization that had reached out to me to do some research around stress, They were launching a product focused on managing stress, promoting sleep, and he was interested in my expertise on moms. And he said, "Why are moms so stressed?" I'm like, "Well, how much time do you have?" I'm like,
exactly.
There's Maslow's hierarchy of needs and there's mom's hierarchy of needs. I just said it. It came out of my mouth. I got so interested in what it would look like. I drew it on a little slip of paper. That night I turned it into a PowerPoint. And then about 150 moms later, because I'm a researcher, I had to check and see if other moms felt the way that I did. It evolved to what it looks like now. So basically, all of those things that we really do care about and prioritize and consider foundational, like our children's health and well-being, milestones, their activities, our professional roles, our household roles, those are all in the bottom 2/3. And anything that we would really do for our mental and physical or emotional health, like Maslow's hierarchy, they're those aspirational categories way up at the tippy top. But for moms, the bottom 2/3 are not only what we prioritize, they're all perpetual responsibilities, right? Like kids' milestones, never done.
Yeah. You keep going.
You keep going. Household work, never done. And increasingly, right, depending on your path and if you're in the paid workforce and what kind of career you have, professional roles are never done either.
Yeah.
So all of that just signals to us that we have to kind of spin in this circle of never done things. And there's no space. There's no discretionary time. And if you don't have discretionary time, it's hard to set habits. It's hard to do the things that really are important for health and well-being and happiness at the top. So when I realized that I was in that loop myself, and it was part of what led to my burning out, it was an epiphany. And it freed me really, because once I knew that there's no way I could do everything every day, because by definition, the things I was trying to do don't have finish lines to them.
Yes.
It gave me this odd permission to become very ruthless about time spent on all of those kind of self-care, growth, and health categories up at the top.
Yes, I'm thinking about, I love this idea. I mean, I don't love it. I hate the idea that our things are never done. And that, like, because I find for myself, like being able to have time, it's like, when do I have time? Right? Because my kids always need something. And it's like, even if I'm working out, it's like, I might be working out in the living room or someplace far away from them, right? But they will find me and they will need something, and they will need me to open this container, get them a snack, change the show, whatever it is, right? Like, and
find something that's in plain sight.
Yes, exactly. Or their father is close by and could ask him for help, but not him, find me, right? So it's like that piece, and it's so hard and frustrating. And so then it's, and then there's the part about feeling guilty for like doing something self-care. Like, I'll schedule a dinner with like a friend, and then my kids will be like, "Oh, you're going to dinner tonight?" Like, no, I don't want you to. I want you to stay here, or whatever it is. Or like I'm going for a walk, and I'm like, I'm going to go for a walk by myself. And they're like, "What? No, we have to come with you." And so it's like, that part of feeling guilty, I so understand, because it's something that I'm still navigating through, of like how to balance that, of like, I want my kids to feel loved and appreciated, but also like I want to feel loved and appreciated by myself, right? To set these boundaries. So like, talk to me about why you think it's hard for moms to prioritize self-care.
It's all the things you just described. It's internalized, misplaced guilt, right? Because we live in an environment and a society where there's not a lot of structural supports for parenting. We are encouraged to be self-sacrificial, right? Mom's been doing that for hundreds and hundreds of years. So for all those reasons, it's like putting on an itchy sweater. It doesn't feel good, right? Something about it feels wrong. To be in like awareness and in concert with what your mental, physical, and emotional needs are. So it's really overriding that programming to unlock that feeling of, oh, not only should I not feel guilty about this, this is good for me. And by the way, if it's good for me, then it is good for my family. It took me time to get there. I realized that when I burned out and my entire family was thriving, that there was something wrong with that. But I also realized if I really, really asked myself the hard questions, I wasn't as good a mother or as good a wife or as good a colleague or worker when I was depleted. When things had reached a point where I didn't remember driving to work most days, or I'd get there and realize I'd left the breast pump at home, or I was forgetting things that were important things. When I realized I was deteriorating, it was clear to me that I not only was I not doing well, that I wasn't showing up in the roles that I had in the way that I felt good about. Since that time, I've interviewed all these incredible clinicians and researchers and experts, and have done tons of studies for my own business, in addition to the research that I was exposed to for my employers when I worked for mental health companies. Now I know that these things are critical to reduce cortisol in our bodies, up at the top of the mom's hierarchy of needs. And by the way, as you well know, cortisol left unchecked over time puts us at risk for a lot of serious health conditions.
Yes.
Women are already at greater risk for stress-related illness of every kind, including anxiety and depression and hypertension and very serious conditions that certainly don't serve us or our families if we have to go down that chronic illness road. And children, when parents have high cortisol and high anxiety, and I learned this from working for a children's mental health startup and talking to a lot of great pediatric psychiatrists, that children's cortisol levels are elevated when parents' cortisol levels are elevated. And and I'm not saying this to make anyone feel guiltier than they already do. It was hard for me to learn that as well. But the drumbeat in our heads that we must be in self-sacrifice mode and in service to this unending to-do list actually causes harm, not just for ourselves, but it eventually causes harm for our families. And it certainly causes harm for your career as well. So all of those, important like responsibilities that we identify with, if you are drowning, right, in a lack of self-care, feeling overwhelmed, you're not being supported at home or at work in the ways that you need to be, it doesn't end well, right? Nothing good comes from that. So understanding that and really internalizing that helps to free you. I'll just add one more thing. When I look at the results in my research study, now is well over 3,700 parents. 97% of them are women. So it's a mom-centric study. It's the moms who have had some sort of severe illness or consequence or loss or medical challenge for themselves that are forced into that radical space of, I must protect my energy and my health and my well-being first. But they were forced into that. So what my message, my not so secret ministry, is health for moms. And I want everyone who's listening to start to think about, what could I carve out for myself? Doesn't have to be that you're going on a spa retreat or you're running a marathon, right? It could be 5 minutes of deep breathing.
Yeah. Which I think it feels like when you're in it, so unachievable, right? Like it seems like you have to do something so big. A question I was thinking is like, how do you know when you are doing the right balance of like self-care versus the other needs What do you feel like? I don't know. I'm not there.
I'm not fully there either. I'm going to be super transparent about
Yeah.
that. I've come so much farther than from where I started, right? Which is now 10 years ago, when I went back to work after my daughter was born. I will say that feeling like I am, actually, this is a Tiffany Dufu quote from her book, Drop the Ball. And I've had the pleasure of meeting her and interviewing her. In her book, she describes what is my best, highest use.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that phraseology because best and highest mean purpose, alignment.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm doing things that I know only I can do, whether it's in my business, whether it's writing or research or sharing insights, or it's teaching my kids a concept or modeling an important aspect of character or
Mm-hmm.
having just a quiet like time walking through the park with one of them or taking care of them when they're sick, things that feel purposeful and values aligned and that I can make a unique contribution to. When I'm doing more of that, it does feel like self-care to me.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm giving myself space for deep thought and reflection and creative expression because I'm a writer, that feels like self-care to me.
Yeah.
When I'm picking up Legos off the floor and cleaning in between the couch cushions and like pulling stuff off of a shelf like for the 50th time, that doesn't feel like my best highest use. As a matter
Mm-hmm.
of fact, it makes me pissed off.
Yeah.
I don't want to spend my time
Mm-hmm.
being the only one of 4 people who cleans in our home, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to spend all of my time scheduling and responding to emails about all the things that have to happen with camp and with the school and
Mm-hmm.
with medical appointments, like
Yeah.
trying to spread that out. My partner was certainly the first stop, but as many mothers who are partnered with dads know, there's a deep gender divide
Mm-hmm.
in how we orient ourselves around childcare and the household.
Yeah.
So he and I are working through it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not fast. But deferring and delegating and ensuring more ownership by him, increasing the ownership that my children feel in age
Mm-hmm.
appropriate ways for things that they can be responsible for.
Yeah.
And also being really okay with someone being disappointed when I say, no, I am going for a run and you can have a tortilla and I will make French toast when I get home.
Mm-hmm.
Or, just
Yeah.
having that conversation and allowing yourself to be okay with yourself when you say those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and you know what's so interesting is like I feel like my husband is very participatory, but he there are times where I've been like, I need another wife. But it's like, so then, but that like says something to me. Like he is a great dad, but also he was socialized that these are the things that dads do. And and so like even that piece of like rewriting this of like, he does a great job. I hate doing dishes. Like that is like something I don't mind putting them away and putting them in the dishwasher, but like hand washing them, I just don't enjoy it. I really don't. And so, but he doesn't mind doing that. So it's like, this is your task, right? But like, it's like thinking about the things that you can unburden yourself. But then there are times that like I am even my own worst enemy. And the situations where it's like my husband will say, like, hey, I'll take over this task for you. And I'm like, what? You don't think I can do it? Like, how dare you? But that's not it at all. Like, and so I think there is a dance that who are aware of this need for moms to take care of themselves are needing to do within relationships to reacquaint to like what they really want their roles in their house to look like. And it maybe some families really like the gender roles. I don't, right? Like I think there are things that I like to do and things I don't like to do. And thankfully a lot of them, my husband does like to do what I don't like to do. And I like to do the things he doesn't like to do. And so I don't mind those kind of things. But then there are things that neither of us like to do. Right. And so then figuring out how you navigate through those tasks because they still need to be done.
Exactly. Well, and I think you've said so many really important things. And it sounds like you're doing a lot of it, right? Sadly, my husband does not like to clean. I I used to like to. I mean, I like things to be clean. I
Yes.
used to be okay with cleaning, but about I don't know, 10, 15 years into our relationship of doing all the cleaning, I stopped. I started hating it, right? So I
Mhm.
hate doing dishes. I hate cleaning. I hate like decluttering constantly. It
Mhm.
feels like a burden to me now,
Yeah.
which is hard, right? Because
Mhm.
clearly it has to be done. But I will say that navigating who is comfortable and most well suited to do certain things helps. Having those conversations frequently helps.
Mhm.
You know, I've interviewed incredible people, Tiffany Dufu being one of them, Eve Rodsky being another one. Her fair play method is brilliant. There are ways to kind of operationalize your home
Mhm.
differently and continue to operationalize it differently over time
Yeah.
because your kids are going to change every
Mhm.
minute. Your personal and professional needs are going to change
Mhm.
all the time.
Yeah.
Throw in possible aging parent care, which also changes the balance and the
Mhm.
dynamics in your home if you have those responsibilities. So all of that, right, means constant revisiting.
Mhm.
I think that it's very tempting because of cognitive load, right? And how much of it we're under. It's tempting to want to set and forget things like, okay, I've come up with a system. We're good. Don't have to
Mhm.
think about this system ever again. But sadly, whether it's quarterly or even monthly, right, at certain seasons of your life, like you probably
Mhm.
do have to check in and say, hey, honey, I'd really like I had my husband take on baths on the weekends and take on certain responsibilities. Now I have him we kind of split, we split the kids in terms of sports and
Mhm.
activities. Like, I
Yes.
mean, he's traveling right now for work, so I'm doing both, but it's like I take our son and his sports and extracurriculars. He takes our daughter to her sports and extracurriculars, and that has kind of worked out.
Mhm.
If it's not an appointment that requires a lot of nuance and historical context about a medical issue, then I have him go to all their well visits with the pediatrician, and
Mhm.
I'm the one who's there for the more diagnostic. Hey, this thing has been a problem for the
Yes.
past several months, and
Mhm.
because I pay attention in a way that he does not.
Yeah.
So, just splitting and dividing and conquering as much as possible. And I also tell moms, frankly, do not feel guilty about paid help. If you can afford paid help, avail yourself of it,
Mhm.
right? Some people can kind of, and paid help is not, sadly, it doesn't eliminate disparities and it doesn't solve all the problems,
Sure.
but it might give you a really nice set of levers to pull if you can order takeout a bit, more often
Mhm.
on those busy seasons, or you have a nanny or an au pair or an in-home caregiver so that you're not also doing drop off and pick up, or
Mhm.
you might have a lot of great unpaid help resources. Like you might have local family, grandparent care, you might have
Yeah.
siblings who live in your town. If that is your situation, avail yourself of that.
Mhm.
If you have people in your life who will support you, if you have great benefits in your workplace and you can, for very low cost or low complexity, have access to care resources like backup childcare or elder care services or
Mhm.
legal services for estate planning, like whatever your company offers. If you work for an organization that offers things, like take advantage of all of it.
Mhm.
I feel like there's also something that we internalize around like struggle. And
Mhm.
it's like don't add struggle just because
Mhm.
it feels noble to do so. If someone can
Mhm.
help you,
Mhm.
if you can buy something to make your life easier and you can afford to do it, then do it. If you can ask someone for help, if you can outsource huge amounts of things to your partner, if you have a partner, do it. Like motherhood is intense in this climate. It's super intense. And the trajectory by which we have to be involved in nurturing and developing and supporting our children, like it's a long trajectory, right? It's not like an overnight or a few years, like it's long. So give yourself every possible tool in your toolkit and avail yourself of whatever you have access to.
Yeah. Well, and it's hard. I'm glad you said that because it is hard to think like even something that I've thought is like, my kids have different sports that they need to go to and I want to be at everything, but it's not a reasonable expectation that I can for lots of reasons. And also sometimes I don't want to go, let's be honest. But like there are things where it's like, if another mom and I can switch off carpooling, of course, like that makes total sense for me, right? And that gives me space to not have to be the drop off and pick up, especially when it's not right, down the street and it'll last an hour because I get nothing done by the time I run back and forth. Or
Or
I
it's at
don't know.
1:30 in the afternoon
Yes. Or that.
during the week,
Yes.
because
I know.
that's easy.
I know, right? And I don't think, I think I like to view it and maybe I'm wrong, but I like to think that like the things I remember about my parents doing or not doing was just being present, right? But I don't remember if they made it to everything. I don't remember it, like exactly what that looked like, that like both parents were at all things or that they did these different things. I just remember them being present. Like I think my mom did all her laundry. I don't really know. Like, I know that I did dishes to help out or like I was in charge of unloading stuff, but like it gave me a buy-in to the family too. And so I think sometimes parents feel this guilt about like having their kids do things, but as adults, like who's going to come in and do your dishes or who's going to do your laundry? And so like we have to also equip them with the skills to do it. And if in the meantime it also helps us get stuff done, then you also get to spend that time with your kid or doing something more pleasurable anyways.
100%.
Yeah.
I think there's so many beneficial lessons that come when we model for our children that trying to do everything isn't healthy or desirable. And there's lots of ways to slice it up. There's lots of ways to move the puzzle pieces around.
Yeah.
I think what's consistent, whether I'm hearing from moms who are partnered or single, privileged or struggling on the, socioeconomic margins, in a job where they have a lot of control over their schedule or in an essential job where they have no control over their schedule, regardless, high mental load, guilt, lack of discretionary time, and concern about our children's well-being and concerned about presence, that is universal. So ease the situation in the ways that you can ease the situation. And I think to your point, what your children or our children will remember from this time, it's not going to be all these little micro trade-offs that we constantly make. Although granted, those trade-offs are hard. And I think emotionally we feel them. And that is a lot of the work that I do and the research and what I write about. Like, how do you get comfortable with those trade-offs? What are the options? What is on the menu?
Yes.
It's not just the things that society is telling you are your choices. Like the menu is bigger, and feel, emboldened at figuring out a set of solutions, workarounds, infrastructure that really works for your life. Because ultimately your kids are more likely to remember if you were happy during this time.
So talk to me about when we think about being a mom, and oftentimes we find ourselves catering to the bottom of the hierarchy, right? Like we're handling those everyday necessary tasks and we want to shift to taking care of the top of the hierarchy, right? Where we're taking care of ourselves and prioritizing that. Talk to me about little things that moms can do to kind of start shifting towards that piece of taking care of themselves and prioritizing that.
Probably the most important thing is picking something that restores you that you can do every day, that's accessible. So, as I was sharing, like it can't be hiking the Swiss Alps unless you live near the Swiss Alps,
Yes,
right?
which unfortunately I don't.
I know. I feel like I made some choices along the way that now I should probably revisit,
Yeah.
right? Or swimming in the ocean or doing something like a spa day. Like those things are fantastic, but they're not accessible on a daily basis.
Sure.
So knowing that, wow, you know what? If walking's my thing, I can get out and take a walk. I can walk up and down my stairs. I can walk inside of my building. I can walk every day. Some days it's going to be an hour. If it's a glorious day, other days it might be 5 minutes. Like for me, running has been my medicine for a long time.
Yeah.
And plan A, I'm going to go running in the morning. It's going to be 3 to 4 miles. I'm going to be by myself. It's going to be like just glorious, right?
Yes.
Plan B is that it might be only 1.5 to 2 miles. It might be like 20 minutes because I have to take the kids somewhere. It might be that we have an event or an activity or, anything that's going on in the morning. And so I have to compress that time. I should also mention weather, right? If your thing is an outdoor thing and you live someplace like Boston, like I do, part of my plan C involves like rain gear and ice grips for winter and all those things, right? So there's another variation on the outdoor run.
Yeah.
And back when my kids were still in their strollers, I had the running stroller. I actually had the Bob stroller, but any running stroller will do. And I would pack up Curious George and the sippy cup and the snacks, and there would be a rain shield involved most of the time. And we might have been running in the dark occasionally, and it might have been for 10 minutes, but I still got my run in, right? Even though I had the baby with me. Or a few years after that, I might have been running in tiny little circles on the playground while my children were playing in the sand pit. And I was just running in tiny little circles until I hit about 2 miles. So being able to adapt the thing that's your thing for all of the variations based on what is really likely to go wrong in your schedule or not necessarily even wrong. It might be that things are going gloriously right, but you need to be able to have some versions of your form of self-care.
Yeah. So, I mean, what advice you have? Like, there might be moms out there who like literally have not done self-care. I mean, that sounds crazy to think that like that would be something that you don't know, but really I think a lot of times when I talk to moms, they're like, I don't know exactly what the thing is that I could do. What advice do you have for women in that space?
It's surprising how often that comes up. In the research study, there are questions about self-care, and there's at least 5 to 10% of the open-ended answers that are like, I don't know, haven't thought about it, didn't even know I could do this, right? It just, my life doesn't permit this.
Yeah.
So start by experimenting and maybe set up some small experiments where you can try different things and determine what feels right for this stage in your life. I have a lot of yoga moms who I hear from. What's nice about yoga is that, yes, you can go to a class and do it with an instructor in person, but you can also do it on YouTube and sit in your living room, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
So it might be that, give yourself a 20-minute yoga excursion and determine, does that feel right? Do I like moving my body this way? Is it calming me down? Or is it amping me up because I'm worried about the positions and I don't feel like I have the hang of it? Is it walking? Is it running? Is it just deep breathing? There's so much great breath work that's been popularized because obviously it's not new, but different ways of breathing to relax and reduce the stress response and give us more space. So I suggest to moms who just don't know what fits anymore, maybe they used to be runners or dancers or tennis players or whatever the thing was that they loved doesn't feel accessible anymore. Start trying something, maybe every week, try one thing for 20 or 30 minutes. And then after about a month or 5 or 6 weeks, you'll have some data, right? I'm a researcher. So you'll have some data, and yes, this felt good. No, it did not. I don't want to do that ever again. I did hot yoga once. I thought I was going to die.
Yeah. It is very hot in there. Yes. Yeah.
I was in good shape until I did hot yoga. And then I realized, no, I guess not. So, find the thing that feels like, I liked this. This felt pretty good. I could adapt this, and I know it could feel even better. And, the third criteria is really, wow, I can fit this in, right? Even if it's not the ideal version of it, I can find a way to adapt it and modify it for the way my life is and the age and independence and stage of my kids, whether or not I have formal childcare or not. All of those dynamics factor in.
Yeah. It's hard. I think it is hard. And what I've noticed in my life is the things sometimes change. What it is that I do when my kids were really little is different than what I do now. I mean, walking is something that's probably consistent for me. And I think about, like, there were times where, I would buy the kids the right apparel, right? They'd be bundled in like a onesie thing that's like a down thing. And then I would strap them to myself and we would go for a walk, right? The other kids are wearing their snow boots and we're like trucking along, right? And I'm like, thinking, like, I'm sure people are thinking, like, why does that lady have her like infant out there? But I'm like, I need this so bad. I have to get out of my house. I have to do something physical. And having them there wasn't plan A, as you say, but it was better than not, right? So and my kids loved it. Then now my kids aren't afraid to be out in the rain or the snow. Like, activities can still persist even with the weather, right? So like that's helpful too. It's like I taught them how to keep going.
I think that's huge, especially if you live someplace like, again, Boston, right, where if you let the weather stop you, you're going to be indoors
yes,
like half the year, more than half the year.
Yes, totally.
And as you described, like your kids learn something, they experience something. Outdoor is also pretty magical.
Yes,
I feel like even if you're not doing anything terribly physical, just the fresh air and seeing the sky and feeling the wind on your face, like there's so many positive benefits of being outside that help just manage stress.
Yes. Okay, so talk to me, if we're like, sometimes we know, like, I know I am neglecting myself when I get grumpy. Not that I can't be grumpy for other reasons, but like, like it's sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't eaten today, which sounds like such a small thing, but sometimes it's a matter of like, I got the kids fed, I got their lunches packed, I got them dropped off, then I had a phone call, then whatever, right? And then I'm like, oh my gosh, like I haven't eaten today yet, and it's 10:30. It's time for lunch. It's 11:30, right? Like I'm like starving. So like those things we can generally notice. But like, how do we notice when we're neglecting ourselves before they get to guilt or shame?
That's a great question. There's a few different things that kind of come to mind based on just personal experience, but also based on the research and the professional experience. I think when you start to kind of feel like disconnected from your identity, and it might be that voice in your head, maybe not the full-on like shame voice, but maybe it is like a like, what are you like, who are you? Where some variation of what's going on in your life feels really out of alignment with how you typically do things. That's an early warning indicator, I think, for me and for a lot of other people. Also, frankly, if the self-care category is down at 0, I actually have a wellness app on my site. It's free. It's called Time Check. But before I developed Time Check, I would just make notes in a notebook about whether there was a self-care activity.
Yeah.
I'm good about running. That I actually maintain, but a lot of other things just weren't happening. Wasn't seeing my friends.
Yeah.
I talk to my mother every day. I talk to my sister every day, right? if I'm not talking to my mother and my sister every day or close to that, that's an indicator that something's wrong, right? Looking at those refueling or foundational habits. And if you notice, wow, it's been a week since I've remembered to eat lunch, or it's been like a month since I've talked to my closest friend, or wow, my husband and I, or my partner and I, or if you are partnered, right, are like ships passing in the night. What's going on, right? You start to just notice. For me, it all kind of comes down to time, because everything good or bad or restorative or stretching, it all just comes down to how you can allocate those hours. And if you're allocating them in ways that feel beneficial to you, whether that benefit is growth, career growth, personal growth, health growth, or that benefit is peace, whatever the thing is that you're looking for, are you able to spend time in service to it? And if you start tracking your time and realizing that you're not, I think that's just a really, and it could be a notebook, it can be a spreadsheet, it can be your notes app. It doesn't have to be sophisticated. So that helped me a lot, especially in the beginning. And I still try to internalize my awareness about that.
Yeah. Well, and I'm thinking like a question I could ask myself is like, what have I done for myself today? Right. And because often I would imagine that my answer sadly would be nothing. Right. Or like, it's like, I enjoy going to my kids' games. Like, I love it. I love cheering them on, but I don't know that I'm not there because I love soccer. I actually don't, but I love watching my kids play soccer. But, it's like, okay, so that probably wasn't for me today. It was more for them. Right. So then it's like, okay, so what am I doing for myself? And like thinking about that piece of like, when I go to bed. And then if I'm like, you know what, today, the best I did was I drank water. Okay. I did that for myself. Okay. Well, that's a necessity. Right. And then, but not feeling guilty about that, saying, okay, and tomorrow, right, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to prioritize this piece, or I'm going to work towards this piece, because I think it's hard when we feel guilty, then we often just don't do it, right? Like, it's like, oh, that just makes me feel like crap. I don't want to do that, or I don't want to not do it. So it's better to just not set myself up for that's the thing I'm doing, which doesn't seem like the right strategy.
100%. Well, and you said something really important there too, like being just compassionate with yourself about when things don't go according to plan. Things will not always go according to plan, right? A surprising amount of the time, things will not go to plan.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, if you have better than 50%, like, tell me your secret, because
100%.
Yes. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's like just knowing that that is the way life kind of works, right? You get these plot twists that you don't expect.
Yes.
And that is part of what we are dealing with all the time. Like, just say, okay, all right, today was not the perfect day, or I didn't have the perfect response, or I didn't do as much self-care or any self-care. But that means that there's something I can learn from what happened today. I always look for what's the lesson. If I work backwards, right, from where I am now, what series of things happened or didn't happen that could have changed the outcome? And then can I structurally put those things in place? Like, can I make sure, like, maybe I shouldn't do bedtime anymore, right? For example, I do bedtime, but maybe I shouldn't do bedtime, right? That could be the answer if you're not able to get to bed on time yourself, or you're not able to feed yourself in the evenings. It could be that, wow, I really need to, like, if I'm partnered, maybe it's like, I'm not going to do drop off anymore, or I don't do every soccer game, or I only do soccer games for one child instead of two children. Whatever the answer might look like for you, tuning into what went sideways, or what unraveled my intention today, and what is the like structural support I can put in place that means most of the time it won't happen again.
Yeah, totally. Well, and I think about, that part of like, you want to be present for things like bedtime for me is a big deal. But with our youngest, I struggle. Like he wants to monopolize all the time. And then what happens is, or can happen, is I fall asleep in there, right? Like, and that's not what I want. Then it takes away time to spend with my partner. And so it was probably 2 weeks ago. I said to my husband, I was like, I cannot do bedtime for him anymore. I can't. Like, I just can't do it. It's not going well, and I don't enjoy it. And that I don't have to do that. I'm going to let go of that, but I need you to do this. Like, I need it to be, you're doing bedtime, you're doing cuddles, like you do it your way, but like I need to know there's cuddles involved in a book, right? And then I can like totally release that over to you. And so that has been tremendously helpful because it does not have to be done by me, right? But I've historically felt like it had to be me, even when, I mean, just all the things like I can think of, like hundreds of times that come flooding into my head of like I'm like rushing home from work to put the kids directly to bed, and sometimes that was like for me, but really disrupted them because they were already set with whoever was home, my husband or our nanny, right? And like although I wanted to put them to bed, it was because it was what I felt like I had to do. Maybe not exactly what I wanted to do. Sometimes it was, but it was also stressful. And so then it felt like it took away from time for me. And then, so like I think exactly what we said earlier about like thinking about there's seasons of life, right? Seasons of things. And so what works for this season may not work for the other seasons. And you can adjust like when things change and my son's able to go to bed more easily, then I would love to be part of that at times, right? But then we can alternate with the other kids too.
Exactly. And I think there again so many like great things in what you said. It's noticing when something doesn't feel good, or it's just raising your stress levels to the point where it's counterproductive.
Yeah.
And frankly, like it's good for our children to be able to have close, loving relationships with their father,
Yes,
right?
totally.
If you have a partner, or with your partner, if you are partnered, if it's your parents, right, and grandparent time, even if it isn't exactly the way you would do it, even if it's not 100% like following your script, there's benefit to that. All right, having an amazing nanny or caregiver in the home, as we do as well, like that's a benefit. So look for the fact that your children over time should not be solely reliant on you.
Yes.
It actually doesn't serve them. It doesn't serve you either, but it certainly doesn't serve them. And having other loving, respectful relationships and seeing the style difference with other adults in their life is, like that's good too.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's hard, but it's so necessary to think about like how to balance it, right? And thinking about like the thing that helps me is to like think about my childhood. And I feel like, my parents didn't do everything right, but they didn't do everything wrong. And so, but it's like the things that I really remember, like what were the things that matter. But also I think, sometimes we can say to your kids, like, what, mommy wants to be at this thing, or I want to, do something at your school. What are the things that matter to you? Because you might be signing yourself up for a bunch of things that your kid cares less about you being there. Then you're sacrificing that time when really they want you to be at this thing. I want you to volunteer at field day. That's what really matters for me. Okay. Right. So I think sometimes we feel like we have to do, so it's quantity versus quality.
Absolutely. My oldest, I was the chaperone for every school trip, all the way up through middle school. And he really valued that. And I really valued that. For my youngest, she didn't want me to chaperone. Something about it, like me being in her space and in her like field trips, she didn't want it. So I was a little bit like, wait, what? At first. But then I realized, okay, different child, different personality, and it's totally okay. I don't have to do that, right? I know there's other competent people who will be in that role. And so for all those reasons, I think if we can kind of, to your point, notice what your child might need, And also, frankly, there's times where your children are not going to know how much you are doing.
Yeah, totally.
Behind the scenes, right? Because a lot of us are right. They were like, we're pulling the puppet string.
Yep.
Because there's right our children's mental health, their academic well-being, their home stability, all those things, right? You might be going after something in your career that has the potential to have a really profound generational impact on your family. You might be doing something with your child from a medical perspective that's kind of invisible to them, right? But when it's age appropriate, if it's age appropriate, convey that you are doing all of these important things to support them or to support the family, things that they may not always see.
Yeah.
Because again, right, they're looking at things through a very filtered lens, depending on how old they are, and sharing what you contribute and making a lot of those invisible things that we're drowning in more visible, especially when you want to enlist more help, is good for everybody.
Yes, totally. Yes. A burden carried by many is less heavy, for sure. Yes. Okay, so I think, sometimes I will have, moms who are, we'll say attempting to prioritize themselves, but the partners or maybe their family or their friends are saying, no, they're not, right? Or they notice like you need to do more, or they want them to, but then the mom may be resistant. What are ways that family, partners, friends can help support moms to prioritizing themselves?
Oh, this is such a great question. There's so many things. I think really first order is like, instead of saying you're concerned, like show you're concerned. Like go in and take the baby. if there's a baby involved.
Yes, sure.
Take the baby, take the kids outside, take them to the playground, make a meal, throw in some laundry, unload the dishwasher, right? Like actively demonstrate your concern for her well-being by taking work off of her mental and physical plate.
Yeah.
Moms are, as we discussed earlier, drowning in too many things to do, under-resourced for a lot of the work that we're trying to accomplish. So I explained a well-intended, I get this question a lot actually from expecting dads. And I love it when I get this question because I give them like a list of like 10 different things that they can do. And they're just so awestruck. They're like, oh, I would have never thought of that. I'm like, I know. I'm so glad you asked me.
Yes.
But having people in your life feel empowered to be active in caregiving and active in household management and to set up a regular cadence. That's probably one of the biggest pieces of advice I give to dads. I'm like, don't just swoop in and ask if your partner needs help with your children. Like just say, hey, you know what? Every afternoon, I want to have some bonding time with the baby, or I want to have some bonding time with the kids, and I'm going to take them to the playground every afternoon from 3 to 4:30 or before dinner time. And then it gives mom the permission to maybe plan something in that time.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah.
Like maybe it's a nap, or maybe she starts to do that yoga video that she's always really wanted to do, or maybe it's, wow, she's like going for her doctorate and has a thesis to write. Whatever it is not relevant. Maybe she wants to eat ice cream and watch Netflix. Like it doesn't matter. Like create a regular space where she can relax and let go of the reins. And I think that's a huge gift to any mom. I mostly work with employers, I think, as you might know, on workplace programs to support mothers and parents and caregivers. So if you happen to be a manager or someone who leads people, really simple one, schedule send those messages. Like if you're working at midnight, that's cool, but your employees don't need to know that you're working at midnight, because then they feel like they have to be up and on and receiving your message and having a coherent response at midnight,
Yeah.
and they'll just break themselves in half trying to make you happy. So schedule those messages for during business hours. It's harder when you have a multiple geographies involved for a team, but there are so many ways that you can create the type of psychological safety that people need to feel like, oh, it's okay for me to be in mom mode now. It's okay for me to rest now. It's okay for me to enjoy my PTO or my vacation or my time, because I'm not constantly receiving intrusive messages that say otherwise. I think there's a lot of ways that people can demonstrate support instead of just saying that they're supportive.
Yeah. Well, and I'm thinking even about my husband's job, and like, I'm like, oh, there are times where there's been leadership that really supports time at home, right? And then other times where there's been leadership where it is not as valued, or I don't think that they think that. I think they probably think the same, but that the actions that they're taking. How well do you think employers do support time at home or time off, or in general, like when we're thinking about the US, how well do you think that's supported?
Oh, in the US, it's not well supported. It's almost like anti-culture, right? In a culture where we're rewarded for working hard, and working hard typically means working long, working past the point where it's healthy, overworking, right? Those are all like deeply embedded messages that we've all received from the time that we were in school. But I will say it's kind of like what you described with your husband, and certainly I think what I've experienced in my corporate life before full-time entrepreneurship, and also what I observe, right, with my husband, and lots of friends and people around me, right? It tends to be leader by leader, unfortunately. Every company is going to describe themselves as family friendly, and every company probably has some piece of paper with a mission statement or a value statement that talks about how much they care about their people. But if you're sending emails at midnight and you are, not allowing people to actually have a break during their paid time off because you're scheduling meetings, or you're peppering them with questions, or you're, creating an environment where people are afraid to ask questions or to show vulnerability, then that's harmful to people. But sadly, it tends to be manager by manager, that people who are compassionate, thoughtful managers, either because it's their personality or because they were trained well to do that, are not the norm. What I do think, though, I'll just caveat that there has been a rise in employee resource groups in a lot of organizations, usually larger organizations, but having a parent employee resource group or caregiver employee resource group does create a more, I think, thoughtful space for other colleagues who are right in the caregiving trenches to be able to share what they might need, or to band together and ask questions, or to advocate for certain benefits. So self-advocacy is tough in a lot of cultures. It's not well respected or rewarded. Setting boundaries is not always well rewarded. But group advocacy can be the way to safely request what you need if it's a power structure difference, like often what's true in the workplace.
Yeah, that's helpful to think about, and to know. I mean, I think sometimes it's helpful to know you're not alone, because you don't see all the different companies, but then knowing what strategies can help to shift that culture is helpful. Okay, so we've talked a lot about partners that are like kind of supportive in this process of moms prioritizing themselves. What do you do if your partner isn't?
Couples therapy. I'm not kidding, really. I think that unlike a lot of other types of challenges, if it is your partner and there's a fundamental source of friction around who does what, and underneath who does what, it's always what it means, right? It was what it means to you if that person is like leaving their dishes right on
totally.
the like table instead of getting up and moving them into the dishwasher, right? There's so much layered meaning in that, and we all bring our personal and cultural and family histories into partnerships. So I feel like if you've given it a good attempt with a lot of the incredible tools that are out there, um, you know, you know, Drop the Ball is an amazing book. Fair Play is an amazing book. Overworked: How to Work, Love, and Play When No One Has the Time by Bridget Schulte is also an amazing book. Equal Partners by Kate Mangino, also an amazing book. If you've availed yourself of resources and have had some conversations with your partner, and it doesn't feel like you're getting any movement, whether it's a couples coach or a couples counselor or a third party who is unbiased, who has some skill in allowing you to share what's hard, what's working. When I hear from people and having had personal experience with it, I think that can be transformative.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. Okay. So what do you want? This has been such a great conversation, but what do you want parents or moms specifically to take away from this conversation?
I want moms to feel powerful and confident caring for themselves in all the ways that they need to. Take that walk, go for that run, see that movie, call that friend, take that deep breath, right? Do the things that allow you to feel restored and allow you to manage stress, because the mental health crisis for moms is real. And the mental health crisis for children and families is real.
Yeah.
So self-care first, and finding ways to integrate it in your life is really the most important thing. The other thing that I would share with moms is that, it doesn't have to be one way, right? It doesn't have to be the way your friend does it or the way your mom did it or what the mom in the movie is doing. Like, you're going to have some complicated tapestry of things that are your situation, your childcare, your kids' physical health, their mental health, whether you're partnered, whether you're not partnered, what kind of career you're in, industry, all those things like feed into a complex tapestry. And don't feel like you need to kind of play by somebody else's playbook. Iterate, test, learn, get data, figure out what works, and say no if something doesn't feel right, or pause something if it doesn't feel right. Like, give yourself the space to come up with a way of doing things that works for you, and find those support structures in your friends and your family, in online spaces. We have an incredible community of Moms Hierarchy of Needs. Moms are welcome there. But wherever that space is, your employee resource group, your faith community, like wherever you feel like whole and complete and like you can speak your mind, gravitate toward those spaces.
Okay, great. This is amazing. Thank you so much, Leslie. This has been just like, I know I'm getting ready to implement so many things in my life, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. I will mention one thing. My first book, Repair with Self-Care, Your Guide to the Mom's Hierarchy of Needs, is launching and available for order. It's launching September 3rd. So please, depending on when this airs, order it, avail yourself of it. It's the resource that walks through all of the learning of the past 8 years.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Leslie, for all of your time today. I hope that you have gleaned some more about mom's needs and the importance of taking care of ourselves before we're attending to our never-ending to-do list. I know that resonates with me so greatly, because it doesn't matter how many times I do dishes or how many loads of laundry. There is always more. So I know I've taken away a few things from this show about like prioritizing myself, and I hope that you have too, and will be able to locate something that will really really bring you joy and fill you up. With that, I will say thank you so much for your time today. If you could subscribe before you leave on the platform that you're listening to on, that would be greatly appreciated. We'd also love for you to share this episode with friends or family or anybody you feel like could benefit from this episode. I would also ask that you follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, and keep the emails coming with future topic suggestions to accidentalexperts@gmail.com. Have a lovely day. Some words from our legal team.
The information presented in this podcast is not intended or implied to be a substitute for appropriate professional advice, diagnosis, or treatment. All content, including text, graphics, images, and information contained on or available through this podcast, is for general information purposes only. This podcast makes no representations and assumes no responsibility for the accuracy or information on or available through this podcast, and such information is subject to change without notice. You are encouraged to confirm any information obtained through this program with other sources and review all information regarding any condition or treatment with the appropriate professionals.
What we're saying is, yes, I am a real therapist, but I'm not your therapist.